I love that the internet has made it so easy to research just about everything. Yep, that includes personal finance. But sometimes that information can have some problems. It's not geared towards our age group, it might be kind of stuffy and boring, and the worst offense, it's not Canadian. Which can leave us totally confused about what specific advice we should pay attention to and what is completely not applicable. As a Canadian millennial myself, I can totally relate to this. So today I've gathered up all my best information to give you sort of a personal finance 101, specific for millennials and specific for Canadians. Welcome to the Ready Set Life YouTube channel. My name is Brittany and I am a millennial financial coach who makes videos all about taking the fear out of finance. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy this video and subscribe with that notification bell turned on if you haven't already. I put out new videos every single Thursday and you don't want to miss them. Millennials are defined as anyone born between the years of 1981 to 1996. Today that means we span an age from 23 to 38. And financially, we've had a pretty rough time. According to Statistics Canada, millennials have the highest after-tax to income ratio among the generations. Over 1.7 times more than Gen Xers had when they were our age, and 2.7 times more than our baby boomer parents. So it makes total sense that we're a bit misunderstood in the financial world. It was much easier for basically everyone else to do the things that you're supposed to do, like move out of your parents' basement, or buy a house of your own, save for having a family, or whatever your adult goals might be. In an effort to help you understand what financial advice is truly important and applicable to you, here are the top things that you should be doing to live your best financial life. The first thing we have to talk about is budgets. I know that bad B word. Every time I say budgets, I get that eye roll and that, oh, well, I don't really like to restrict myself, so I don't know if that will work for me. A budget is just a plan for your money. It's a direction. It gives the money that you're earning purpose. If you're not actually paying attention to where your money is going, then you'll have no foundation for anything else. To manage your money, you actually have to manage your money. That means that you have to create yourself a budget, or a money plan if you want to call it that. You have to have some financial goals and priorities. You need to decide how much you're going to save and how much you're going to spend and why you're doing that. If you don't have a budget or want some help changing up your current one, I'm going to link my budget creation video up in the cards. When you're done watching this one, go watch that one and get started with your own money plan. It's the first step and it will make your life so much easier, I promise. The second thing I want to talk about is savings. Now I know you've heard this before, the old adage, pay yourself first. It's no good having money and just spending it all away. We want to make sure our future priorities and goals are being built into our money plans. This can be tough for us because we're the first generation really growing up with the internet and the new era of technology. I know that sounds totally unrelated, but just let me explain. The internet has made things incredibly easy. If we're wondering what time that Dollarama down the street closes or who that one actress is in that one movie, we can instantly look it up in the palm of our hands. I love it. It's super convenient. But it sort of primes us for instant gratification. We've got tons of practice hitting the quick small wins, but almost no practice in the patience of waiting for a larger payoff. For me, this is where my savings really thrived. Actually understanding my goals and why I was saving money and reminding myself of that was really the key to developing that skill. I suggest getting super clear on what your values are. I'm going to link a video that I did on SMART goals and a values worksheet that I developed down in the description below. Actually thinking about your future and then putting that plan into action to actually reach those goals is going to change your outlook on money management. You'll never be able to actually afford a house if you don't save for it. You'll never feel secure and comfortable in your life if you don't actually have an emergency fund. As millennials, it's hard for us to override that temptation of spending on something tangible. That week-long vacation to Costa Rica that all of our friends are taking, or the latest iPhone, or that yummy-looking restaurant that just opened down the street. It's not a bad thing to spend on that stuff, but if it comes at the cost of things that you want in your future, then that is something that you're going to have to look at. Reminding yourself whenever you can about those big picture goals that you're working towards will go a long way in overriding those urges and putting money back into your bank account. Now, I mentioned emergency funds in that last one, so let's just talk about that for a second. If you don't know, an emergency fund is basically the money that you're always going to have on hand in your bank accounts, just in case anything happens. You lose your job, your car breaks down, your apartment floods, something crazy. You don't live with your parents anymore. And even if you do, you don't want to burden them with your financial issues. So take responsibility for yourself. Now, in terms of the amount that you should have in this fund, it's not really a clear understanding amongst financial experts. I've heard everything from $1,000 to 6 months worth of living expenses. My advice, treat it sort of like a job loss fund. Know approximately how long it would take for you to get a new position in your field if you lost your job, and prepare for that. i.e. someone with a super common job or general field like administration might have 3 months of living expenses on hand, while someone with a more complicated career like maybe veterinarian or something would actually want 6 months or more on hand. Let me know in the comments down below if you're a vet. Is it hard to get a job in that field? I'm totally just guessing. I'm going to be making a video next month on emergency funds. If you have any specific questions, please let me know in the comments down below and I'll try to answer them there. All right, the big one. Let's talk about debt. I already mentioned our debt to income ratio. We've got the highest compared to all the generations before us. And a lot of that is because we're the most educated. In Canada, about 70% of us have a post-secondary degree, compared to 55% of Generation X when they were our age. And about 24.4% of us carried student debt from that education, compared to 14.8% of Generation X in the same time period. So, what do we do about it? I think the major things we worry about with debt is, number one, how the heck to pay it off, and number two, how to actually integrate that into the other financial priorities and advice that we're getting, i.e. when should we worry about investing our money or saving for our goals during debt payoff. Paying off your debt is easy. Okay, it's totally not easy, but planning it is. The best thing that you can do for your debt is have a plan to pay it off strategically. Now, I won't spend too much on this either because I also made a video about this topic. I'll link it up above so you can check it out after this one. But what I mean here is basically don't just throw extra money whenever you can get it at your debt and expect it to go down. You actually want to understand how much debt you have, the interest rates of those debts, and how much you're regularly going to be contributing to that in order to make it disappear. Integrating debt payoff with the rest of your money plan is a bit more complicated. There are literally so many financial advisors out there with a million different opinions on this. Please find the one that resonates with you the most because there's no one way to do this. I'm going to give you my opinion, and that is that you shouldn't put the rest of your financial life on hold while you're paying off your debt. I know, controversial topic, debt is bad. Obviously, try and get rid of it as fast as possible. But the reality is, debt payoff, especially if you have huge debts, is going to take you years. You can't put the rest of your life on hold for that long. Always be contributing to your debt, but don't forget about those other goals that you made as well. Emergency funds, vacation funds, all of those should also be getting regular money, even if it's something minimal, like 20 bucks a month. In terms of investing your money during debt payoff, here's my thoughts. Take it by interest rate. The approximate average return on the market has been from 5 to 10%. If your debt has an interest rate of higher than 10%, pay that sucker off. If your debt has a smaller interest rate, then you can afford to spend a little more time with it. It's no use putting extra money towards debt when you could be taking advantage of market returns at a higher rate. Once we do put a little dent in that debt and finally earn enough to get out of our parents' basements, we are going to be wanting to look to the future, which might mean taking on some pretty big loans. And that means paying attention to our credit so we can get the best rates from lenders. Again, I've made a video on this as well, so I'll link it above so you can figure out how to do that. But one thing I do want to mention here though, is that looking at our credit isn't just for getting good rates on loans. It's actually to prevent identity theft, which isn't a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer from it every year. Okay, sorry, I couldn't resist. But seriously, it's a real thing that happens to people. So you want to be regularly checking your reports to make sure that everything is as it should be. One of my favorite Canadian resources for this is Borrowell. They help track your credit for free, so I'll link them and a few other resources in the description down below. Now, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, retirement. Hopefully I didn't bore you with the rest of this information because this one is the most important. As millennials, most of us are pretty far from retiring, so it's not at the top of our minds. But the earlier that you start saving, the less of your own money you'll need to put in to reach your goals. This is because of compound interest, which basically means that you're earning interest on your interest. For example, if you start saving for retirement at 25 and invest $100 a month and retire at 65, assuming a conservative yearly market return of 5%, you'll have about $152,000 in total from putting in approximately $48,000 of your own money. If you don't start saving until age 35, reaching that $152,000 will mean almost doubling your payment to $183 per month and putting in almost $66,000 of your own money. And the scary thing is, you're gonna need way more than $152,000 to retire. I'm gonna leave a few calculators down in the description so you can figure out what you actually are going to need for retirement and how much changing that monthly payment would actually make the difference in reaching that number. Before we move on, this is a Canada-specific video, so I do want to highlight the differences between Canada and the US. In Canada, we have two types of government retirement benefits. CPP, which is the Canada Pension Plan, that's what we're paying into during our working years, and then OAS, which stands for Old Age Security, and we get this regardless of if we worked or not. In the US, I'm pretty sure they just have one program called Social Security. And as far as I can tell, it's most like our CPP program. Whether you live in the US or Canada, these government programs are not enough to get you through retirement. I think as a teenager, when you get your first job, you're like, what is this tax that you're taking from my paychecks? And you figure out that it's for retirement and you're like, all right, well, I'm covered. But the average CPP payout per month is $683.65. And the maximum OAS benefit that you can get is $607.46. That means if you save nothing for retirement, you'll be living off of $1,200 a month. And I don't know about you, but my monthly costs are way more than that. With inflation, that will be worth even less than it is today, and it will be way harder. One thing that they always spout in the US articles is contributing to your 401k. Again, I think they only have that one program there, so maybe that's why 401ks are much more important or relevant to them. Also, the cost of healthcare. I have no idea how they manage that during retirement. But in Canada, we actually do have something similar. We just call it a pension. And sometimes your work will have an employer match program. Well, they'll set up a pension for you, basically a retirement account, and they'll put in an equal amount that you contribute up to a certain percentage. So I know at my last job, I put in 4% of every paycheck and they matched it, giving me a total of 8% contribution. And a lot of the times these are opt-in benefits, which means that you have to actually tell your company's HR rep that you want to be included in the program. So please look into whether you have this program at your workplace, because it's literally free money that you could just be leaving on the table. This one I don't actually have a lot of experience with, but I still want to mention it because millennials span a wide age group and your situation might be different than mine. One of the last sort of adulty things that we have to get figured out is insurance. If you have anyone that depends on you financially, like a child or a spouse, look into insurance. It's tough to think about, but you want to be prepared in case you pass away or get injured unexpectedly. You also want to look at getting a will prepared. I know, it seems like stuff only your parents have to worry about, but things happen, even to young people, and it's actually cheaper in the long run to get insured now while you're healthy, rather than waiting until you might actually have some problems that will cost you more. Again, I'm not an expert on insurances or products like this, but I know Jessica Moorhouse, another amazing Canadian money expert, has made some great videos addressing this. So I'm gonna link them down below so you can get some more information. The next thing that you're going to need is a supportive community. Financial stuff seems difficult, partly because it's shrouded in this air of mystery. It's taboo. No one wants to talk about how much we make or what we're spending it on. It's dangerous because it can leave us uninformed and embarrassed. It can give an immense amount of power to employers who make our salaries, the financial services that sell us products, or the marketers that are trying to get us to spend our money. Take back that power and start breaking down those barriers. I'm not saying that you have to broadcast how much you make to the world or brag to everyone about all your purchases, but get a few close friends and just make it normal to talk about money with them. Find yourself a community of people who you don't feel embarrassed around, that you can be honest and open with. It might seem weird at first. Money isn't easy to be vulnerable with, but once you start, I bet you'll find that your friends are feeling just as confused and alone as you are. Don't try and go through your financial journey alone. Build a supportive system to go through it together. Alright, that was a lot of information. Hopefully you're not falling asleep on me and you actually got some great tips for your finances from this video. If you did, please let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear your feedback. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe with the notification bell turned on if you haven't already. Next week, I'm going to be talking all about money mistakes to avoid in your 20s. So if you're on that beginning end of the millennial spectrum, make sure you tune in for that one. In the meantime, I've collected all the videos that I mentioned in this one into a playlist, and I'll link it over on one of the sides so you can keep learning about millennial finances. Until next time, I'm wishing you great financial health. Bye!